Hi, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List. Welcome to our program today. And today we continue with another in our discussion series sponsored by the Bridge Alliance, which we call Repairing America's Broken Democracy. And so toward that end, we have a special guest with us today, and his name is Ken Powley. And Ken is the co-founder and CEO of Team Democracy. So Ken, welcome to our program.
Thanks so much, Dave. Glad to be here.
We're glad you're here, and you look quite comfortable there, sitting in your, I'm sure, your COVID workspace in your kitchen. This
is my lifelong workspace. Yes, correct.
Your lifelong, pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Absolutely. Nothing changed.
That's good. It's no pretense when you just are comfortable sitting in your kitchen. Good for you. So Ken, I know that we're talking about, what we're calling repairing America's broken democracy. You're active in that. You started or co-founded, I believe, an organization called Team Democracy. Tell me about that. What is Team Democracy? What do you hope to accomplish? What are you accomplishing?
Well, Team Democracy is a relatively young 501c3 nonprofit. It was founded by two partners from opposite ends of the political spectrum. And at a time when Americans are finding it really hard to find common ground, Team Democracy creates this space, a safe space where citizens and elected officials can come together to strengthen our national security by committing themselves to democracy and to the rule of law. The election pledge is Team Democracy's first initiative. It invites citizens and corporations and incumbents and candidates to commit to upholding the two most fundamentally important cornerstones of our democracy, those being free and fair elections and the peaceful transfer of power. If we ever lose either of those underpinnings, our democratic republic ceases to be democratic. We cannot survive as a democracy without elections that we have confidence in and without the peaceful transfer of power, no matter who wins the election. So that's our laser focus. The election pledge is an initiative that we use to invite citizens to commit themselves to protecting democracy, and more importantly, to encourage their elected representatives to also commit themselves to these cornerstones of democracy.
So it will, good for you, I'll say, first of all. And secondly, it will come as no surprise that many people are critics of where we stand on both of those issues, though they're not necessarily for or against the same person, right? That certainly the issue of organized, non-controversial transfer of power has been in the news of late, as has the topic of free and fair elections. So walk us through where, the role of Team Democracy in that regard, and what do you feel you've accomplished so far, and what do you still have to do? And because I don't think there are too many viewers who would disagree with the objectives that you have.
Yeah, I think many of us recognize that polarization has gotten to a point in America where it undercuts everything we try to accomplish. Name an issue, and it's polarized. So we're fighting these enormous headwinds. We look at this, it's a pledge on the surface, but if you look under the hood, it's an effort to create a piece of common ground that people from the left and people from the right can comfortably share together. I have friends on the left and on the right who both agree that our elections should be safe and secure. They both agree that more participation by voters is healthy for democracy. They all agree that we shouldn't storm the Capitol in the aftermath of an election. But those shared beliefs get drowned out by the negative noise that bombards us through social media, through traditional media. So we're trying to shine a spotlight on some really important things that fundamentally, recent polls say 80% of Americans still favor more collaboration and less partisanship in our government. 80% of Americans, that's an amazing number. They share a desire for common purpose and common work, collaborative work for the benefit of the American people. We're just saying, hey, let's affirm that we agree on these fundamental core issues and move forward together and build more bridges based on a starting point where we understand one another. So what we have, we came to this in the aftermath of January 6th. And quite honestly, that was a moment of real clarity for me. I had spent no time at all in the democracy space or in politics or social issues. I was busy for 47 years. I ran a whitewater rafting company here in northeastern Pennsylvania, took a couple of million people down rivers, didn't give a thought to democracy or politics. That was something for other people to take care of. And frankly, took democracy for granted. To me, I was born in 1949. It was something that was rock solid. It would never go away. We never had to worry about it. But the events leading up to the election of 2016 and then the events of January 6th, that was a real revelation to me. And it was a moment where I realized that we actually can lose our democracy. We actually can watch it slip through our fingers if we don't take action. And we can't simply wait for Washington or people in our state capitals to take action. Democracy by its nature requires our citizens to take action. And so I look in the mirror and, hey, that's me. And so on the day after January 6th, I was no longer working at my 47-year career. I was working on this. And it's a calling that I feel passionate about. I think a lot of Americans share the conviction that we can do better and be better. And all the polls indicate that when we get Americans together in structured conversations, one from the left, one from the right, what they discover is they have a lot more in common than they think they do. Braver Angels is great at this. There's other organizations that structure these conversations. And the polarization between American citizens is less extreme than the polarization in Washington. So if we're looking to Washington to fix this, that might not be the best idea. Democracy by its nature requires us as citizens to get involved. And so I reached out to some family members and some friends with my thoughts about this. Chris Newland, who is my wife's brother, sent me back a very thoughtful reply. And that was the beginning of a conversation that has continued unabated over the last 14 months. It led to our founding teamdemocracy.org. It led to our drafting the election pledge, which articulates those core fundamental democracy protecting guardrails. And it has led us to partner with a really amazing group of democracy nonprofits all across the landscape. We expected to find partners, willing partners in the voter access community or in the election integrity community, because that's what our pledge is about. And we did find those partners. What we didn't expect was that veterans groups would be so enthusiastic about what we're doing, or that the national security community would be so strong in support of this. We have half a dozen generals who are speaking on a video that will be released very soon, speaking from the heart about the challenge they see posed by polarization in the United States. And they will say on this video that this is the most serious national security issue we face as a country. They don't worry about Russia or Iran or North Korea as much as they worry about the internal processes that are eroding our confidence in our democratic institutions. And they're pointing to the election pledge as a good starting point for American citizens to empower themselves, take the bull by the horns, sign the pledge. When you hit the submit button, the next screen that comes up is a list of the candidates in your district. Contact each one of them, say, I've signed the pledge. Here's where it is. It's at teamdemocracy.org. Please, if you haven't signed the pledge as my candidate, sign it so that I know you're serious about this. It matters to me. It should matter to you. If we can get a fraction of the Americans who believe in what we're articulating to actually sign the pledge and send that note to their candidates, we will move the needle. The dialogue will change, and our candidates and our incumbents will know that we take this seriously and we're going to hold them accountable. It's ironic that I find myself involved in an election pledge initiative, because I have never been one for signing pledges or petitions, because if you look across the landscape at the hundreds of them that are out there, many of them are less than effective because they're signed, they're shelved, and they're forgotten. The one exception to that is the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. And that pledge has been wildly successful and impactful in American politics because it has a tracking mechanism and it has accountability features. And so we have crafted the election pledge. We've taken inspiration from that and made sure that we built this pledge on a software platform that allows it to track who signed it, who didn't sign it, who signed it and then violated it, and provide that information to voters, to donors, and to the media. We're not in the business of issuing red cards if people don't sign it or sign it and then violate it, but we are in the business of tracking it and making that information available. So we believe we've put together a text and a process that will really inspire Americans to say, I can do something. I have an answer to that nagging question. What can I do as an individual citizen to help defend and strengthen democracy? Here's what you can do. You go to teamdemocracy.org, you sign the pledge, and then you insist that your candidates do the same thing.
Well, I would only say, Ken, that you are, I cannot even imagine that you've only been doing this a couple months, and you are an incredibly articulate and passionate advocate for your cause. You know, kudos for that. And if I had to guess, I would have guessed you've been doing this for 40 some years and only recently took up the river rafting part. But let me just ask you this, because there's not going to be too many viewers who disagree with anything that you've said. It seems to me that a lot of it comes down to the interpretation, right? So you talked about access and integrity. And so, as we know from the last election, there are a lot of folks who believe, let's say, that having multiple election days and having mail-in ballots and what have you, that certainly adds to access. But just as many people believe that hurts the integrity. So I'm not trying to challenge you here, but is that something you come across and have to deal with as well?
I love a good question, and that is a great question. The reality is that we have been given a false choice here, in my opinion. Election integrity and election access, like everything else, has been politicized and polarized for the advantage of one candidate or one party or the other. The reality is we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have the technology to have safe, secure elections where lots of people vote. We can do that. We put a man on the moon 60 years ago. We just created a vaccine in less than a year. We can track a FedEx package from Wichita to Wilmington and know where it is every step of the way. We have the technology to do this. We just need the will to do it. It's not expensive. There are people far smarter than me out there who have a lot of the technology answers to enable us to do that. The resources are there. The knowledge is there. We just need the will to come together and say, let's do both. What a novel idea. Let's do both.
I couldn't agree more. Tell me a little bit about these. I understand you've gathered together a group of retired generals who are about to or just supported the election pledge. Where does that stand, and how did that come to be?
That group includes General Hayden, Doug Lute, Jim Clapper, Stan McChrystal, and Mark Hertling. And they did a wonderful job of articulating why they are so concerned, why they see such a degree of urgency about this, and why they feel that the election pledge is the way that American citizens can begin to have an impact on our elected representatives. They clearly see it as a national security issue. We concluded the filming on this a couple of weeks ago. The editors have it, and they're doing their magic with it right now. It's going to be a powerful piece. They did a piece on gun control a couple of years ago that was equally impressive. So we're really excited about the release of this. We expect it to come out in early April. Each of them has expressed a willingness to participate in follow-up interviews. We're looking forward to a real surge in media coverage on this. I mean, it's newsworthy, and it's so relevant today with what's going on in Ukraine. You know, Gary Kasparov, a week or two ago, had a comment that I just loved. He said, if you think Putin's war in Ukraine is about Ukraine, you're missing the point. This is a war against democracy. And more than ever before, we need American democracy to be strong and resilient and unquestioned and be an example. As Reagan said, the shining city on the hill. We need to be the shining city on the hill for our friends in Europe and around the world. And so the release of this video, I think, is going to be very timely and hopefully very impactful.
Well, Ken, you've again been an incredibly, I'm going to say, brilliant spokesperson for your cause. And I'm urging all of our viewers to learn more about Team Democracy. You've given that website. And then I think there's another website, the electionpledge.org, right?
Correct. Yes.
And what do you want people to do? Just say once again with that is reach out to their elected officials and urge that they sign the pledge.
Absolutely. Sign the pledge. Realize that we have a tool in our hands that we can use to change things. And it's up to us to do it. We have to do it. We can't sit on our hands anymore. It's too important. Well,
Ken, I couldn't agree more. Kudos and congratulations. Let's keep advancing the cause. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Oh, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List, and today has been another one of our conversations sponsored by the Bridge Alliance, and it's all about, as you just heard, helping to repair America's broken democracy. Ken, thank you for joining us today, and thank you all for watching.